Watch out, Leffy said. Your Highness! Leffy hugged the king tightly. The little king wondered what had happened to him. The king said to Leffy, Foolish! Flames started coming out, and smoke began rising in the king's place. Leffy grabbed the little king tightly and fell down. The smoke made Leffy cough. Prince Perry, think is it over? Said the little king, pushing Letty. Are you insane? Do you wish to die? Prince shouted. Get me some water and a towel, Viscount. Why yes. The king grabbed Leffy by the arm. Leffy started to hurt. The king asked Leffy. Don't move. The king thought, is he punishing me? For not getting out of the way? The little king pressed his arm. The servant then said to the king, Your Highness. The cause of the explosion really was the gem on the sword hilt. Judging by its blast radius, it's very likely an explosive artifact. The knight who was carrying it died instantly. You said that knight went outside earlier, and he twisted his ankle on his way back. The servant continued. That's right, the prince said. Someone may have cast a mind control spell on him. That's enough for now. Go and help take care of the aftermath. Yes, Your Highness, but even after finding out that someone was trying to kill him, he's barely reacting, as if he's accustomed to the idea of someone wanting to kill him, Prince said. I've never met someone as strange as you. You should have run when you were in danger. Why would you come to me when I have your life in my hands? I guess I was sure that you wouldn't die. Leffy added, if you weren't going to be killed by the explosion, I would surely lose my head for trying to save my own skin, right? Leffy ran and said, Hello? Are you deaf? In other words, you are a bigger threat to me than that explosion, Your Highness. I'm a very calculating person, you know. You're so strange. Thank you for worrying about me. You should have injured your mouth instead. The prince's welcome banquet ended in chaos. The nobles who attended were all interrogated, and those who were injured were treated in the palace. She started walking with a lantern in her hand. Mages from the Mage Tower investigated the scene, but they were unable to find the culprit. In order to protect Prince Perry, more knights were stationed around his palace. On a night when everyone's tensions were high in the Imperial Palace, I decided to infiltrate Persilian's room, Leffy said. Let's sleep together, sire. Are you insane? The prince asked. Leffy asked the king. We have to be on guard until we find out how that explosive artifact was brought here. If anything happens, I have to grab you and run. I told you not to treat me like a baby. Leffy raised his hand. I'm simply speaking the truth, sire. In that body, you won't be able to run very quickly. Sir Millard will guard your room outside, and I'll guard you in here. Sir Millard agreed to it as well, the king said. I haven't agreed, Leffy replied. You don't get a vote, sire. Prince Perry gave a push and said. Get out of there, he said, holding the lantern. Thank you for giving me permission, she said with a smile. Don't worry, sire. I'm actually really good at running. Just a few hours ago, I managed to leap to your aid, didn't I? And you got hurt. Sure, but I didn't die, Prince said. Leffy asked the king. Also, if I get hurt, you'll just patch me up again, right, Your Highness? The mages are here, Prince said. That was fast. Heal this injury at once, a guy asked. Pardon, the magician said. We're here to investigate the explosion, the prince said. Did you not hear me order you to heal this injury? Oh, of course, Your Highness, the magician said. Thanks to him, I got healed by 3 mages. It's not like it was a fatal wound, but it's nice to have it healed, the king said. You'll get yourself killed if you keep acting like that. I'll try to avoid that then. Besides, the nobles think of you as a set anyway. If you purchase Prince Perry, you get a fortune teller too. There's a rumor going around that I might have some sort of special ability, so if you're ever in danger again, they might just try to take me out first. Or I might get tortured to death. Leffy stopped breathing for a moment. The king thought about it. Leffy said. So, please let me benefit from Sir Millard's protection, since he's the only knight you trust. To be honest, I'm not actually worried about myself. The reason I came here anyway is because I was worried about Persilian. It was more about how he had to go through this today of all days rather than the fact that he had been in danger. And because I felt sad for him when I saw just how accustomed he seemed to this situation. I'll just hold your hand, I promise. I'm actually a really heavy sleeper, Leffy said. That would be great, but… Just kidding. I wake up pretty quickly if I sense someone else's presence, Leffy said. And since you're a light sleeper, all you have to do is wave your hand in my face, and I'll get up, grab you, and run, the king doubtful asked. How did you even know I was a light sleeper? Leffy thought I read it in the novel, and she said, You're very sensitive to noise, Leffy asked. So I guessed that you'd be a light sleeper. I'm glad I was right. Persilian was such a light sleeper that even the smallest noise would wake him up, the king said. So? Why did you drag that over here? Leffy replied. I'll sleep here. I'll stretch my arm out, so please just hold my hand. I'll go and turn off the lights, the king said. Seriously? Come up here. Pardon? I'm telling you to sleep on the bed. It's big enough. I am a woman of modesty, sire. If you're going to spew nonsense like that, get out. Leffy thought I was so surprised that I said something weird. The Persilian who trusts no one is letting me sleep next to him? Ooh, it's so soft, Leffy said. Hold my hand, sire, Prince Perry said. Being this close is more than enough. If we're in danger, I'll wake you, Leffy thought. I wanted to hold his little baby hand, the king said. I said no. Stop it, Leffy smiled and said. I'm your last resort, right? Grab hold of me whenever you like, little king said. Grab hold of me whenever you like, Leffy said. It's Count Martian's and… Pfft. His daughter, Leffy said. Stop laughing, I didn't laugh. But the king thought, it's just so funny, a few hours ago. May Roel Ascart flourish, your highness. This is my daughter. Hello, your highness. Leffy thought, why did he bring his kid? Did something happen? Now that I see you two together, Lady Regina said. Your highness, you and my daughter seem to make a wonderful pair. The king thought it, and Leffy thought it too. Don't laugh, she asked. You suit each other so well. At the welcome banquet, the nobles judged the prince to be bright and clever, and so they all began to scheme with only one thing in mind. And that one thing was, farewell, your highness, the king asked Leffy. Stop laughing. After going through several such meetings, I managed to stop laughing, but it's still so funny, Millard asked. But at least Count Martians used to be vice-captain of the Imperial Guard in the past, Leffy asked. Don't you think he'll be able to help with the investigation? The king asked. He is one of the Archduchess's vassals. The king took a sip of tea. Leffy asked the king. So he won't be of any help then? The investigation referred to the explosion incident at the welcome banquet. Because the knight who carried the explosive was killed, we haven't been able to find out who the real culprit was. Since the guards were picked on short notice, there were only 3 of them, including Millard. And since one of them was killed, there was not enough manpower to cover the grounds at the time, Leffy thought, and the knight who died was in charge of patrolling outside. So we have no way of knowing who he ran into. Though this happened because he didn't have enough people, Millard took the incident to heart and felt responsible for it. In order to atone for this, he has been putting together a proper guard regiment. The fire started to flare up. He's even holding tryouts. Leffy nodded his head and asked. Having a few more skilled knights would definitely be reassuring. A knock on the door. Count Martians will be arriving soon, someone announced. Leffy asked. He's bringing his daughter, who is 5 years old, your highness, the king, scratching his ear, said. I don't care, Leffy asked the king. You never know what the future holds, so you should take a good look, the king said. If I do, I'd be a man. She's only 5, Leffy said. Technically, she's older than you. You're just 4, the king said. Shut up, the king roared. Leffy thought, I think he told me to shut up, but I feel like he just cursed me. I thought he couldn't use magic, little king said. If you're just going to keep spewing nonsense, you can leave and go rest, Leffy said. I really am all better now, sire, little king waved his hand and said. Do you really think an injury from an explosion can heal that quickly? Persilian mentioned this a lot. Apparently, magic healing can't completely heal internal injuries, the king grumbled. Magic can't fix everything, Leffy repeated. Magic can't fix everything, the king said. I'm sending you away because you're noisy. There was a knock on the door from outside. Come in, Ascart said. May House Ascart flourish? His daughter asked. Flourish? Then she asked. Thank you for visiting me. She glanced at them. The long trip must have been exhausting. The king started smiling at all of this. Leffy and the king started talking. Your Highness, yet another little lady just fell in love with you, the king said. I told you not to tell me these things, Ascart said. I was worried about you, but I am glad to see that you are well, Your Highness. He knocked again. She heard it. Eckhart's daughter glanced at him and asked, Are you all right, Daisy? Prince Perry ignored her and started drinking tea. She stared angrily at the king. Leffy asked. Look at her, trying her best. Even though the prince is ignoring her, the small girl was upset. But compared to all those other young ladies who would throw themselves at him, she's much calmer. Maybe it's because she's a year older. Leffy thought. Leffy said. It's mine, a guy said. And oh, it's mine, one of the other little ladies. He thought, Esichu wasn't successful in getting the prince to pay her any attention, and no matter how hard she tried. But Daisy won't give up, she asked. Which cookie is tastier? Leffy answered. The chocolate chip cookie is good. It's as sweet, the girl asked the king. Your Highness! Which cookie should I eat? The king said. Whichever one you want, the girl said. If you don't pick one for me, I won't be able to choose. Oh. Haha. Just pick one, Daisy, the girl said. I can't, unless His Highness tells me which one, the king said. Eat the chocolate chip cookie, she replied. Okay, the girl asked. Here. You can have some too, Your Highness. The king started giving biscuits to the king. The girl held out her hand to give the biscuit. The biscuit was thrown down by the king, Leffy said. No, Your Highness, Leffy said. Watch out. Leffy held out his hand to show the king. The king looked at it. Leffy thought, I caught it? The king thought. Daisy's unbelievably weak throw turned into an unexpected trick shot. Leffy asked. Your Highness. This is from your guest. The king looked at it. Leffy put it on the plate. A man cried and said, Daisy, you can't do that. Please don't, the girl said. I'm so sorry, Your Highness, Ascart said. My daughter is still too young and immature. Please blame me for this, she asked. Of course, Prince Perry said. You didn't tell her to behave before you stepped inside this room, Ascart said. You didn't keep an eye on your immature child, the king said. You must take responsibility for both of these. Maybe. Bark would be good this time. You didn't tell her to behave before you stepped inside this room, and you didn't keep an eye on your immature child. You must take responsibility for both of these. Ascart said. I've just started a new company, babe, so I will have a lot of meetings to speak at. Then he asked. Please don't make me say bark. The king raised his hand and asked. Please don't make me say bark, Ascart asked. Pardon? The little king said. After today, if any other nobles bring their children here, the king picked up the 2 pieces and said. Your head will end up like this cookie, Ascart asked politely. You understood, Your Highness. Thank you for your generous understanding, the little king said. I'll have to tell them to serve only one kind of cookie from now on. The chocolate chip cookies would be good, Leffy smiled and said. But you never raised your voice at the little lady. How admirable! Today alone, there were quite a few young ladies fawning over Priscillian. Daisy was the first to actually throw something at him, but in the past few days, there were several similar attempts to get his attention. Though he has every right to be angry, Priscillian never took it out on any of the children. He only glared at Count Marhens just now too, Leffy said to the king. Could it be that you let it slide because you were interested in Miss Daisy? The little king said. What kind of garbage adult would have feelings for a child? Leffy said. Now I regret teasing him like that, the little king said. Children shouldn't be blamed. They don't know enough yet, then he added. Maybe they act like that because their parents were too doting. The king thought, if their mistakes are coddled rather than criticized, then. Leffy thought about it while the little king turned his head. The novel never talked much about Priscillian's childhood. It was only described as similar to that of Lady Cyril's, and Cyril's childhood was miserable. Her mother passed away when she was young, and Cyril had to endure bullying from everyone at the Duke's manor. No matter what she did, she had to be careful. She spent her childhood trying not to get in anyone's way. Later, she discovered her immense talent as a sword fighter, and even became the official successor to her family. but her miserable childhood would still haunt her at times. If Priscillian's childhood was similar to hers, I wanted those two to end up together because I loved how much they had in common, but it feels strange watching him reminisce about his past right in front of me. The emotions I see in his eyes are far too complex to simply be described as sadness. Leffy shouted. Your Highness! You can do whatever you want. The king looked at her questioningly. Throw a cookie! You can throw it as far as you want to. Leffy started giving chocolate to the king in a loving manner. Leffy said, I feel like Priscillian has been smiling more these days. I'm the one making him laugh more. I feel kind of proud, the little king said. Then I'd like to sew your mouth shut. Be quiet, Leffy said. Does he really have to get so sensitive about some teasing? I might have been more than a bit, but still, the king said. Anyway, I'm keeping you by my side because you said you would find out about the curse. Are you even making any progress? It doesn't seem like you are, Leffy said. Doing my best. It's just that the cursed object is so well hidden that. Go and look for it then, Leffy shouted as she punched the door. How could you kick me out like this? Who's going to protect you from all those flying cookies? The king said. Quiet down, Leffy cried as she left. Ascart thought, I guess I have been neglecting the treasure hunt quest lately. No more tears, Leffy. I should be looking around more, Count Marshans asked. Miss Leffy! I have something to tell you. Got kicked out right before me. Count Marshans? Leffy said. Yes? Count Marshans asked. I actually had something I needed to give to His Highness, but I left so quickly that I wasn't able to. Could you give it to him in my stead, Miss Leffy? Leffy thought, documents? Leffy started reading with tears in her eyes and thought, a detailed list of knights? He must have compiled it because word got around about the Prince's Guard recruiting more knights. But most of the knights on here are children of nobles, Count Marshans said. I used to be vice captain of the Imperial Knights, you see. All of the knights on that list are trustworthy men, Leffy said. Yes. Count Marshans glanced around and whispered. To be frank, the Archduchess asked me to make sure His Highness receives this list, Leffy said. Pardon? Pardon? The Count nodded. Yes, indeed. She ordered me to hand him this list, as it will be of great help, Count Marshans said. She really does care for him. His Highness is her only relative, after all, Leffy smiled. No matter how you look at it, this is an attempt at nepotism, Leffy said. Should I really give this to Priscillian? She thought. The Archduchess sent documents through someone? She's the most suspicious one in this situation. Count Marshans cleared his throat. Ahem. Ahem. This is a sapphire bracelet, he added. At the welcoming banquet, I noticed that your eyes were blue, so I thought this would suit you, Miss Leffy. Leffy thought, what an obvious attempt at bribery, Count Marshans said. I am very well aware that it is thanks to you, Miss Leffy, that His Highness has been able to adjust so well to life at the palace, Leffy thought. So there was a reason he wanted to give these documents to me instead of just having them sent to the prince, Count Marshans said. This is just a little something I prepared as a thank you for continuing to take care of His Highness. Ha, Leffy thought, because I'm the only person Prince Perry keeps close to him. What does this man take me for? As if bribery would work on me, Leffy said. I'll make sure His Highness receives these documents. The documents just happened to fit into her hands. She clicked the door open, the king said. Why are you back here? Leffy grinned. I received a bribe, Your Highness, the king said. What? Leffy said. Count Marshans asked me to make sure this gets to you. And then he bribed me with this. Leffy showed the bracelet to the king said. You seem not at all embarrassed about accepting a bribe, Leffy shrugged and said. It would be wrong to hide it, but I told you about it, didn't I? So it doesn't count. So I'm letting you know that those documents were given to me along with this bracelet as a bribe by Count Marshans, the king said. Letting me know? Leffy smiled. Yup. So now, as a reward for being honest, you can allow me to keep this bracelet, Your Majesty, the king shook his head. I'll choose to ignore that, Leffy said. Oh, also, those documents were ordered to be given to you by Archduchess von Didus, the king said. By her? Leffy said. That's right. Apparently, she said they would be helpful to you, the maid said. Is it all right for me to be here? I wanted to see if you needed help, of course. the maid said. We're glad to have you help us, Miss Leffy. The palace servants were friendly to me despite once being a street-side fortune teller. It seemed like my former job made me sound both mysterious and approachable. Anyone would be intrigued by someone who can see the future, after all, she asked. What are you making today? We're making some cookies, but it seems as though His Highness hasn't been eating cookies very much, so we're in a bind, the maid said. That's because of something I can't talk about, she asked Leffy. Miss Leffy, you spent time with His Highness before he arrived at the palace, right? Do you have any ideas? Leffy asked. Pardon? He has the same tastes as his father, she asked. Pardon? Leffy asked. You could just bring him the same snacks as you did for the Emperor. Why don't you ask someone who used to serve His Majesty when he was younger, the maid said. My aunt has worked here for many years, but she doesn't know what His Majesty used to like either. Ever since His Majesty's mana awakened, he spent all his time at the Mage Tower. He practically grew up there, Leffy thought. Priscillian was 9 when his mana awakened. Does that mean they never gave him snacks before then? The 4-year-old Priscillian is so much smaller than I expected. I figured it was because he used to be a picky eater, Leffy thought, but maybe it was because he didn't get fed enough, the maid asked. I'm glad His Highness is here though, Leffy said. Why do you say that? The maid asked Leffy. You said they had the same tastes, right? That means we'll know what to serve His Majesty when he returns. I am a bit worried because he left when things were looking bad, Leffy said. What was looking bad? The maid shook her head and said. And never mind, thinking to herself, now I want to know even more. Come to think of it, Millard said something similar. Millard asked. The aristocracy has been behaving suspiciously, sire. Leffy's eyes blinked as she thought. I can't quite remember why Lady Cyril left the Empire in the first place. Why would a lady of the Empire personally join a delegation going to an allied kingdom? The maid asked Leffy. Don't worry about it, it's nothing, and waved her hand. Leffy thought, the flower. Leffy coughed and said. MMPH? She thought, what is this, a smoke bomb? Leffy coughed and asked. What happened, cough, Tio make? I give up, the maid said. I just meant that I was worried about His Highness being here all by himself. So please help us feed snacks to His Highness, Miss Leffy. He needs to eat well at his age, another maid asked. You are his one and only guardian after all, the maid said. Doesn't know what His Majesty used to like either. All right, Miss Leffy asked. I'll make sure he eats everything. Miss Leffy looked through the door and saw that the little king was writing something. She thought, he's working hard, Leffy said. Ahem. Leffy touched a big, shiny object next to the king and thought, look at that questioning stare. The king looked at her, Leffy said. This is a spread of the best desserts offered to you by your servants. They were all made with your tastes in mind, the little king said. So why are you the one bringing this? She asked. I helped them make it, the little king said. Did you add poison? Leffy shouted. Excuse me? Why would you ever question my undying loyalty? Leffy thought, OPS, did I go overboard? The little king said. I chose you, Leffy said. I swear, there's no poison in any of this, Your Majesty. Everyone is worried because you barely ever touch your snacks. They were all trying to find something you would like. Everyone is concerned about you, the little king wrote something and said. Concerned, you say? I'm their employer. They're simply doing their job. Well, maybe. But if they went this far to try and make something you will like, isn't that their way of showing how much they care? They put so much effort into trying to accommodate you. Everyone cares for you, Your Majesty. The king turned his hand. He acts like he doesn't understand why anyone would do anything out of kindness. I wonder why he seems so suspicious or unaccustomed to being told people care about him, Leffy said. More importantly, he's completely ignoring the tray of desserts. I didn't want to resort to this, but picky eaters won't grow big and strong, you know, the king said. I'm already fully grown. Go and get me those documents if you're just going to keep spewing nonsense, Leffy said. Fine, she thought. The servants all seemed worried about him. Do I have to spoon feed him? But then we won't be able to find out what he actually likes. Leffy thought. He ate it, Miss Leffie touched her mouth and said, I can't look now, or he'll stop eating. She thought, it feels just like successfully feeding a stray cat. She put things away and walked off. The king said, That took you so long. Leffie shook her head, thinking, So he ate the chaux. Leffie said, I should tell Sophia to make more shoe for him next time. She heard the sound of someone walking. Leffie said, I don't think it's here either. A few days ago, Priscillian sent back the bracelet I got as a bribe. Someone close to the prince shouldn't seem like they can be bribed. I gave His Highness the list of knights, but cannot accept this bracelet, so I am sending it back. That's what he told me to write to the count. I was really sad to see the bracelet go, but if I don't do as he tells me to, it would get me killed, so I had no choice. A man asked. Are you Miss Leffie? Leffie said. Yes, I am. What is it? The man asked. Viscount Harrynolds has invited you to dinner, Leffie said. Me? He said he wants to introduce you to one of his sons, Leffie said. Pardon? He said. He wants to introduce you to one of his sons. I started to get marriage offers. After that bribery incident, I began getting letters asking to meet me outside of the palace, so I ignored them all. There was a sound of knocking on the door. But after that, they started sending their secretaries, the guy said. Miss Leffie, did you not receive our letter? And sometimes, the nobles would even come see me themselves, the man said. Hello, Miss Fortune Unteller. Gee, Leffie said. Hello? When ignoring them didn't seem to work anymore, I decided to report it to Priscillian, Leffie said. Your Majesty, I seem to be getting marriage offers, the little king said. What? Leffie replied. Marriage offers, Leffie said. I thought I saw you hold back a laugh, but I must be seeing things, right? The little king put his hand on his forehead while shaking his head and asked. Yes, I suppose that makes sense. The little king nodded his head. Yes, true, considering the rumors going around. Leffie thought, is he doing this because I laughed at him? Maybe I deserve this, the little king said. Right, yes. It makes total sense considering the rumors, and she thought you can stop now, Leffie said. Do I really have to reject them? The little king said. Are you saying you want to meet with them? Miss Leffie waved her hand and said. No. Of course not. I am wholly dedicated to you, sire. I don't understand how a child can be so scary. It must be so much worse when he's in his adult form, the king asked Leffie. Just ignore them. Even if they come to you in person, wouldn't a simple hello be all right? I'm worried you will blab as soon as you talk to them, Leffie laughed and asked. Haha, His Highness is actually the Emperor. A curse turned him into a child. Blah blah, the Count held out his hand. Leffie said to the king. My lips are sealed, the king said. Your lips are too loose for that. Pardon? I am sorry for making you do most of the searching, the man said. Miss Leffie, Millard asked Leffie. Well, you've been busy recruiting more knights to the prince's guard, and His Majesty has to handle state affairs, so I'm the only one who has time. Priscillian seemed a bit concerned too, the little king said. Considering that bombing incident, I'll assign a knight to you, so he assigned someone to guard me. It may be that he just wanted to make sure I wasn't going around blabbing, but I accepted the offer gratefully, Leffie said. I suppose it's all up to me. I have to walk around this absurdly gigantic palace, fighting through the fear of getting lost at any moment, Millard asked Leffie. It would be great if you could just locate it with your visions, Leffie sighed. I'm doing my best every single day to lift the curse for His Majesty's sake. Millard gave a thumbs up. I see. Leffie laughed and thought, Sir Millard seems so gentle, but he can be really cold. Millard asked. It seems as though His Majesty values you quite a bit, seeing that he ordered a knight to guard you. Leffie thought, no, he's just spying on me in case I get seduced by a marriage offer and blab. Miss Leffie smiled and said, I've been helping him out in the office as much as I can. Millard asked Leffie. I heard you have been getting marriage offers too, Leffie repeated. My lips are sealed. Millard ignored her and asked. I'm sure he will reward you handsomely if things work out well. Please just hold out until then. Leffie thought, he didn't even pretend to listen to me. Millard asked. There will be more and more nobles that try to approach you, but I should be able to stop them myself as long as they aren't of higher status than a duke. Leffie thought again. He still doesn't trust me? A man approached and asked. Would you be Miss Leffie? Millard turned and thought, talking to me. Ugh, another marriage offer? Millard asked. What brings you here, my lord? The man said. Hello, Miss Leffie. The man thought, who is this beautiful man? The man said. I came all the way to the palace in the hopes of seeing you. I'm glad to meet you, the man said. I am Castian von Hadar. Leffie thought, who is Castian von Hadar? Castian von Hadar, a side male character from the novel who knows exactly what the female lead likes and gently courts her. I never liked him because his description always raised red flags in my head. You can have my precious Cyril, but seeing him in person, Leffie said. Wow, then she asked. Good day, my lord. What an honor it is to meet you, Castian said. Have you heard of me? You seemed shocked to see me. And smiled. Leffie started to laugh happily. Oh, I've heard of you, of course. But I can see people's auras at times, and I was just amazed by yours, Lord Castian, Castian said. I am glad to hear such praise from a famous fortune-teller. I would like to have a word with you. Leffie glanced away and thought, why did you have to trigger this event? Cyril was so uninterested in Castian in the novel. How could she react like that to such a handsome man? Castian said. Do you have something to say to me, miss? Your face, Leffie said. No. It's just that your aura is so bright that the future of the Hadar Duchy seems very hopeful, Castian said. I don't know what to say, Castian smiled and said. Thank you for your kind words. Ha, Leffie thought, wow, he might actually win me over. Ahem. So, what was it you wanted to discuss with me? Miss Leffie said. The whole empire is talking about His Highness and you, Miss Leffie. As you are the one and only guardian of the prince, I thought I ought to pay you a visit as a member of House Hadar, Castian said. My house is loyal to the imperial family, after all. The recent chaos had me worried, but seeing you in person is very reassuring. House Hadar really was a family that supported the emperor from behind the scenes. They did things quietly, as if they wanted to avoid attention. Leffie thought, anyway. Flattery should be answered with more flattery, Castian nodded. Indeed. Please do not hesitate to let me know if I can be of any help.